Good day, grade 12s. My name is Carden Madzokere. I'm the author of the Distinction Bound Student textbooks. I have economics grade 10, 11, and 12, and I also have business studies grade 11 and 12. All right, in this lesson, we are going to be looking at multiple choice type questions for paper 2. I also have a video that I uploaded 2 days ago, and so you can check it also on my channel. It's multiple choice paper 2 exam prep. So this I'm concentrating on questions that have come since 2017. Yes, if you want, you can go back to 2016, 15. You can download these question papers on the Department of Education website. All right, so let's get started with our lesson. I'm going to start by giving you something that you need to know, okay, in case you are watching this video and you haven't watched the first one, the paper 1 video. All right, the first thing I want to point out is since 2017 November, the Department of Education came up with this idea of having 2 A's, 2 B's, 2 C's, and 2 D's. If you check question papers before that, before 2017, I think 2016 going backwards, we used to have 3 options, like there was only A, B, C. So when they introduced D as an option in multiple choice, they came up with this concept of having 2 A's, 2 B's, and 2 D's. So it will be something like this. If number 2 and 7 are A's, let's say you don't know, okay, then let's say you have 1 B, and then you have 1 C, and then you have your 2 D's, something like this. That means you don't know the answer to question 3 and 5. But what you can see is A, we have A already, B, okay? Then we have D. So what we have left is C and B. So for number 3 and 5, the answer is either C or B. So what I recommend is you go back to number 3, you try to read the question once again, and you might notice that let's say you might notice that C is absolutely wrong here. So if C is absolutely wrong, then this becomes a B, then this becomes a C. But let's say you read this and you still don't know. Let's do it again. Let's say you read it again, still no clue. You read number 5, still no clue. For that, I recommend that you just guess, make them 2 C's, because one of them is obviously correct. So that way you only get one question wrong. So you get 14 out of 16. Because if you try to guess them out, you'll probably say this is a B and there's a C. And B in this case is wrong, C in this case is wrong. So you end up getting 12 out of 16. So it's a strategy to try and... So look, if it works out that you read again and then you notice that no, C is absolutely wrong for number 3, then you are going to make this a B and this a C. In that case, this will be correct and this will be correct. So you end up getting 16 out of 16. But you wouldn't have gotten this 16 out of 16 if you didn't know these 2 A's, 2 B's, 2 C's, and 2 D's. So I'm mentioning it so that you make use of that. All right, let's get down to business. So I'm going to start with May, June 2017. Let's see what came. So this was their number 1. Just like I did in paper 1, I told you that it makes more sense for you to read the question, try to answer it without looking at the options, and then look at the options later on. You'll see that you make your life easy in that sense. All right, let's read. The average revenue, yes, we normally say AR. Okay, the average revenue of a firm in a perfectly competitive market, okay? Take note, because it's always important to see which market structure we're talking about. Is equal to its, okay, we know that in a perfectly competitive market, D is equal to AR, which is equal to MR, and we know that this is also equal to the price. So we then come to our options. If D is there, MR is there, and P is there, obviously one of the three is there. We just don't know what they can't put all three, because then we won't have an answer. We will have three answers then. All right, let's see what options we have. So amongst the options we have, let's see the selling price. Okay, you see I put P here, so that'll be A. That'll be our answer. Okay, but before we go to our answer, just like I said here, look here, D is equal to AR and equal to MR, and that is also equal to our price. And that price is coming from the market, because the market forces of demand and supply. They are the ones that determine the market price. So you see here I said market price. So this market price then is taken by the individual. So the question says the average revenue. So we're talking about this thing here. What is it equal to? But just like you see, it's equal to D, it's equal to MR, and it's equal to the price. So according to what we have here, it will be the selling price. Number 2, the supply curve. Okay, we can also make use of this graph here. The supply curve for a firm in a perfectly competitive market. Same market, so we can make use of the same graph. Here's a dash slope. The supply curve in a perfectly competitive market is the marginal cost curve. So how can you describe this? How is it sloping? Do you think it's sloping negatively? It doesn't make sense, because going up, we're going from 0 upwards. So as you go up, does this look like negative? No. So it looks like it's going up. So the answer will obviously be positive. So it's going up. It's a positive sloping supply curve. You see, it's not horizontal, because what's horizontal is the demand curve. Let's see the other options. It's not negative, because if it was negative, it would go from top to bottom. And the one that's negative is like this one here, this demand curve here. It's negative sloping, so we can't say negative. So negative is out. Horizontal is this one here. This one here is the one that is horizontal, so horizontal is out. Then convex, it's not either. So the only thing that makes sense here is positive. Right, the next question, differentiated products are, okay, if a product is differentiated, it's heterogeneous, because if it's not differentiated, it's homogeneous or unique. So the other term for differentiated is heterogeneous. That would be B. The demand curve that explains oligopolies. Okay, let's look at it. So this is our demand curve here. Let's see, we have a D1, we have a D2. The difference between this demand curve and this one here is the elasticity. One is more elastic than the other. This one here, the top part of the demand curve of an oligopolist is highly elastic, and the bottom part is inelastic. So what do we call a demand curve like this? This whole demand curve, we say it is, do we say it is vertical? Okay, vertical means it's like this. Does this look vertical? No. Do we say it's horizontal? Horizontal looks like this. Do we say it's secular? Then secular is like this. Does this look like this, or this, or this? It looks like none of them. So the answer will be, it is kinked. The next one, the market is unable to protect the environment. Okay, the market. In other words, free forces, demand and supply. You know the goal, demand and supply. You know the goal of every firm. The goal is to maximize profits. So if you look at this question here, the market is unable to protect the environment because it is mainly driven by, okay, let's see options, but what must come to your mind is they do things for profit. So most probably if this option is there, the answer would have to be self-interest. Yes, it is there. Okay, social interests, markets are not socially interested. The thing that is socially interested is mostly the government. Social cost doesn't even make sense. Driven by the community, no. Okay, so it is social, it's self-interest. The implementation of inflation target, by the way, what's our target? Our target is 3 to 6%. So the implementation of the inflation target is the responsibility of who? That is obvious. That is obvious. Let's look at the options. Yes, that would be the South African Reserve Bank. The South African Revenue Services is responsible for collecting tax on behalf of the Department of Finance. And the Department of Trade and Industry is mostly responsible for our industrial development policies. Yes. So in this case, then the answer is the South African Reserve Bank. Let's move on to the next question. In the next question, it says, for a trip to be classified as part of tourism, the maximum. Okay, so you must be careful about the word. In some cases, they ask about the minimum. Okay, so if you exceed, so this one is saying, if you exceed how many years, it is no longer classified as tourism. I think we then say you have migrated. Then it's more precise to call it that, ne? So take note. In some cases, they ask about the minimum stay, and the minute they talk about the minimum stay here, they don't write year. They'll change it to day or days. Okay. So in this case, it will be 1 year. There is our option. That is one. You can't stay for 9 years in a place and we call you a tourist. But from 1 day to 1 year, you are still regarded to as a tourist. If it's less than 24 hours, it's more precise, more correct to call it an excursion. And if it's more than a year, it's more like you have migrated. So we can't really say you are a tourist in that case. Right, global warming is the result of emission of, we call them greenhouse gases. Okay, I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm just giving answers just like that without giving you a chance to think. I would like to apologize for that. So yes, global warming, that would be, could we say natural gases? No. Hydrogen? No. Oxygenated? No. That would be greenhouse gases. The next one, so we're done with Feb, March. No. With May, June. I think you can see it was a clear a 16 out of 16 here. It was clearly 16 out of 16. Then we came to November. In November, the first question was, the perfect competitor must be able to cover its dash cost to prevent a shutdown. It's okay. Let me write the shutdown rule. Price must be less. If price is less or equal to AVC, the firm should shut down. So what kind of a cost? The firm must be able to cover its, okay, so you need to know what VC is then. Okay, that will be its average variable cost. So you see, our VC is, the C is there. So what you need to know is the AV, yeah. But yeah, AVC. So we have average variable cost here. All right, so the answer is clear. Our answer is A. Because that's what the rule says. You must be able to cover your variable costs. Goods which are non-excludable. Okay, so we have non-excludability and we have non-rivalry are known as, okay, these goods are provided by the government because of these characteristics. The fact that they are non-excludable and the fact that they are non-rivalry makes it impossible, or what do you call it? Businesses would not want to sell something which is non-excludable, neither would they want to sell something that is non-rivalry. Let's look, every business sells things that are excludable, things that are rivalry. Let me prove to you. When you are hungry, you don't just go to any fast food outlet and say, give me that, then you eat, you go. For you, first and foremost, you must be willing. So yeah, you being hungry makes you willing to get a meal. So you can't just walk into a fast food outlet and take what you want. You have to meet the next criteria, the next criteria, yes, which is you must be able. So willingness is there. In most cases, we are willing to have, because us as human beings, we have unlimited needs. We have unlimited wants. We want a lot of things. We want so many cars. But how come we don't have many cars? Because we must be able. The willingness is there, but we must also be able. So for me to explain excludability, anyone who's willing and able to purchase a good, it's impossible to exclude them from enjoying public goods. But if you look at a meal, it is possible to exclude free riders, because a person must be able to afford the meal. If they are not able to afford the meal, we don't give them the meal. So it's easy to exclude them from enjoying the meal. And then the other part of the characteristic of these public goods is the non-rivalry. But if we look at normal goods and services, they are rivalry, meaning consumption by one does diminish consumption by the other. In terms of non-rivalry, it means consumption by one does not diminish consumption by the other. That means if a person consumes a public good, that good is still available for the next person to come and use. Like we use roads, the road is still available for the next person to use. But if you look at the things that we own, like your car is for you and it's registered in your name, it's there for one person. Let's say food, if you take a sip from a cold drink, if you take a bite from a burger, that bite is available for one person. So if you take a bite and that bite is gone, so you are a rival in consuming that thing, it won't be available for the next person to take a bite. They could take a bite from the burger, but it's not the same bite. So consumption by one does diminish consumption by the other. I hope you understand. Right, so what kind of goods? That will be public goods. Let's see the options. Okay, we don't have public goods here, but what is close to what we're saying here? It can be consumer goods. It can be capital goods. Capital goods are goods that are made for the sake of other goods. And then it can be scarce goods. So the answer is community goods. So community goods is public goods, just like that. The next question, when a business does not produce at the lowest possible cost, it relates to, okay, there are only two possible answers here. Either you say productive efficiency, inefficiency, or allocative inefficiency. Any other option other than these two doesn't make sense at all. So yes, we have A as our allocative efficiency and then D as our productive. So it means consumer inefficiency is wrong, goods inefficiency is wrong. So which one is correct between allocative and productive? Right, let's first look at allocative efficiency. With this one, we can't really say the inability to produce at your lowest possible cost is being allocatively inefficient, because this has to do with the distribution of goods. It's more like we overproduce something or we underproduce another thing, but it has nothing to do with cost. So for that reason, allocative efficiency is out. So we're left with only one correct answer, which is productive inefficiency. But if the question was talking like in this year, they could ask the same question but change some things there and talk more about the allocation of resources, and that would then be allocative efficiency and not productive. So just revisit the two terms and see the difference. The nature of a product under conditions of monopolistic. All right, so monopolistic, we have a good example, fast food outlets. Would you say what McDonald's produce is the same as what, let's say, steers produce. Obviously, it's not the same. So these products are obviously not homogeneous. They are not static. They are not environmentally friendly, even though sometimes they can be. But the most appropriate answer here will be differentiated. An example of products on which environmental tax is charged is, okay, here we can't answer this. We have to see what options they gave us and see what makes sense. Okay, environmental tax. Do you think car seats make sense? Car seats, no. Why? What would make it possible? No, it doesn't even make sense at all. Car seats are actually merit goods. We can't really, tax you for using them. And then car tires, yeah, they are not easy to dispose. There are not so many things you could do with them, like recycling. I don't think it's possible. Maybe it is. I stand to be corrected there. Roof tiles, no. Clothes, no. Okay, so we are only left with one thing that is a possible yes, which is car tires. The main purpose of SAT, South African tourism, is to promote South Africa as a tourist destination to who? Okay, to everyone. So that will be to both domestic and international, because they are not there to just promote South Africa domestically, because you find them in other countries. They are marketing South Africa as a tourist destination. So someone will get some flyers, visit SAT in America, and make a decision to come to South Africa just because of SAT. So they don't just market South Africa within South Africa, they also market it internationally. So that will be A. Managing the environment in such a way that it remains in its present condition is known as, this could sound like, what do you call this one? Environmental sustainability. If it's there, it would make sense, but the answer that would make the most sense is preservation. Yes, because when you make use of the environment and you manage it in such a way that it remains in its present condition, you are preserving it, and you are not really conserving it, you are preserving it. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, it's known as scenery. Come on, scenery does not make sense at all. I don't even know who would ever put A as the answer in this case. Is known as management. Okay, some will be tricked by the word managing, but come on. Then conservation is tricky. You might think it is, but in this case it'll be preservation. A clue, when the answer is going to be conservation, we should have talked about natural resources or animals. Right, the statement "too much money chasing too few goods" it can be described as, that sounds like demand pull. Demand pull. Yes, there is demand pull. It's not really hyperinflation, because hyperinflation is when prices go up at a rate of 50% or more. So it's hyperinflation is that abnormal rate of inflation, something like what Zimbabwe did. 30, I forgot. I think it's 37 billion% per annum. That was insane. And 50% is regarded to as abnormal. So when you enter the billions, that's hyper abnormal. All right, let's have a look. Like I said, we have two A's, two B's, A's, two B's, two C's, and two D's. There we go. Then we move on to Feb March 2018. The first question then was, A close example of a perfectly competitive market in South Africa. Okay, here we have to see the options. You can't really answer this yet, but just a clue. You are looking for a market structure with many buyers and sellers and the products being homogeneous. Okay, oil companies is out because there are a few. We can't really put this under perfect because the condition is there have to be many. Let's come to the JSE. How many how many people are buying and how many people are selling? You are going to realize that there are so many. You should go on the stock market, just go online and see what's going on. You'll see that there are so many shares being bought and sold in seconds, and there are so many companies listed on the JSE. All right, and shares for, let's say, Naspers, they are all identical. Millions of shares, they are 100% identical. So we see that they are homogeneous. So this one meets both criteria. Let's look at Eskom. There is only one, so we don't have to waste our time. Let's look at the retail industry. Okay, you might find out that there are many, but then the problem comes to when we look at the nature of product, you could see that the product is heterogeneous. So the thing that makes sense in this one is the JSE. Is the closest we can get to the answer. A monopolist will maximize his revenue. Okay, here you must be careful because if you make a mistake, you are going to read this because you are used to that question. You could read this as because the minute people see the word maximize, they think about maximizing profit. And also this is going to trick you because this one says MR, marginal revenue. And we all know the rule, right? You maximize your profits where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. But this is a different question. It's asking about maximizing revenue, which is different. Because you maximize your profits where MR is equal to MC, but not your revenue. And you getting the most revenue doesn't mean that's where you make the biggest profit, because the minute you exceed that profit maximizing output, your profit begins to decline because look, the shape of the AC is like this, AC, average cost. So let's say this is your profit maximizing output, but let's say revenue is maximized at this point. Okay, according to whatever answer we are going to see just now. Look at the cost here and the cost there. You see, on this first here, the cost is lower than here. Here the cost has gone up. So let's see the options. The answer will be 0 here, and the reason is, let's have a look here. This is our MR here, and you see that our MR is going down, and now it has reached 0 there. And look here at our revenue curve. It's going up as output increases. It's going up, it's going up, it's going up. But where it reaches its maximum is when the marginal revenue here is at 0. You see, because beyond that, this begins to decline. You see, it's declining. And before that, it's still increasing. But the question is, when does it reach its maximum? And like I said, if you know MR is equal to MC, many people are going to make a mistake and say the answer is B. But the truth is the answer is C. Right, next question. Products of a monopolistic market are monopolistic. So these are our fast food outlets. We've seen this question before. They are differentiated. They are heterogeneous. So if they don't give differentiated, look for heterogeneous, because it's the same thing. They are not homogeneous, they are not unique, they are not identical. But for argument's sake, this word here, because someone could be right to say they're unique, because let me prove to you. If you look at this thing here, let's say a McFist, right? This thing tastes like a McFist, that's all. Like nothing else on the market will taste like this. So McDonald's can argue and say our product is unique, like nothing else tastes like it, you know. But now, according to what we learn in class, we always teach you that in monopolistic the product is differentiated. But I mean, you would struggle to mark a learner wrong if they write unique. The most appropriate answer in this case will be differentiated. But I'm just saying, if a learner says unique, there's an element of truth in that. Of course, the most correct answer is A, but it doesn't completely dismiss C as a correct answer. Right, the gap between the average cost. Okay, you see the. I'll put the graph that has that. The gap between the average cost curve and the average variable cost curve dash as production increases. Okay, I want you to have a look at this one here. All right, they say the gap between AC. Okay, so this is our AC and what? And AVC. Right, look at this gap, this one here. As output goes up, as in to the right, what's going on with this gap? What's going on with this gap? I think you are not blind, ne? You can see that it's not increasing. You can see that it's not staying the same. You can see that it's not expanding, because expanding is increasing anyway. All right, this gap here is closing, as you can see. So the answer is it decreases there. So you won't even struggle to understand what this question wants. There is the graph. You can see, you can clearly see what's going on. Right, the next question: low growth, high unemployment, and high rate of inflation. Nothing screams I'm the answer more than stagflation. Yes, because inflation is a general increase in prices. Hyperinflation is when prices increase at a rate of 50% or more. Deflation is a general decrease in prices. So deflation is the opposite of inflation, right? Then hyper. So when we explain this, is a general increase in prices. Hyper, it is when, so for hyper, you want to see this word, this number here, 50% or more. Deflation, general decrease, opposite of inflation. But take note, there's another term that people often confuse with deflation. The term is disinflation. Disinflation is the general decrease in the rate of inflation. So what that means is, if last year inflation was at 6% and this year is at 5%, what has happened? The rate of inflation is decreased. So it's not like prices are going down. No, prices are not going down, but the rate at which they are going up has decreased. So don't confuse the two. So in this case, high unemployment, high inflation, and low economic growth, that will be stagflation. For an activity to be classified as part of tourism, right, I told you before, we saw this question, but in that year they asked you about the maximum. So now they changed, and I also told you that when they talk about minimum, that'll be days. So I've done this already, but someone who did the previous one and saw that, okay, in the previous one it was saying dash years, dash year or years, ne? Under the options we had one, and I said that was the answer. In this case, they give you that one again, and if you make a mistake, you would say 1 year, because when you were revising for this particular exam, you saw the answer was 1 year. but you are missing something. That time they were asking about the maximum. So be careful. Check if they're asking about maximum or minimum. So in this case, it's not year, it's 1 day. But you see that the one is there, and the year is there to confuse you. And so many of you will get confused and say 1 year. And why would you say 1 year? Because you'll be like, I saw it before. But you're forgetting that what you saw was not minimum, it was maximum. Right, the next question. The use of a cost benefit analysis, all right, CBA, when we look at costs, and then we look at benefits, and when our benefits outweigh the costs, then we say the project is feasible. Because if the costs outweigh the benefits, then we are not going to embark on that project, because we lose more money than what we get from the project. So we won't do that. So now, when you're doing that, what can you say about your decision making? Would you say that your decision making is subjective? Okay, with CBA, you look at the cost, you look at the benefits. That doesn't sound like being subjective, because a subjective decision making is based on, or it is influenced by, the personal feelings. So this one has nothing to do with feelings, how you feel. It has everything to do with the facts. The fact that benefits outweigh costs. That's not how you feel, but that's a fact. You see? So it can't be said to be subjective, because you're not using your feelings. Neither are you using your taste as a consumer or your opinion. This has nothing to do with your opinion. It has everything to do with the facts. So it is not subjective. It is not complex, because being complex is being complicated or difficult. It's not even difficult. It's not rocket science. It's clear, objective, because it's not even biased. And a biased approach is a subjective one. So in this case, it is an objective one, because you are using what? Facts, as opposed to using feelings, taste, or opinion. Because when you are using, one of the reasons biased is wrong is you could be biased, because ask me which team is the best. I'll tell you it's Manchester United, because that's my team. And obviously I'm biased in terms of my, ask me which brand is better, Nike or Adidas. I'll tell you it's Adidas. So my judgment there is biased, obviously, because I love Adidas. So I'll always see it as more beautiful, and I'll tell my mind, no, Nike cannot be more beautiful. You see? So my judgment there is biased. It's not objective. It's actually subjective. All right. Then the next one, tourism is this one, if you don't say labor, I don't know what you're talking about. Tourism is nothing but labor intensive. Just think about it. Think about waiters, think about tour guides, think about drivers. Come on, all those people there in that industry. Go to a hotel, think about room service. Come on, this thing is labor intensive. It's not capital intensive. What we could say is capital intensive is things like manufacturing, because we use robots and stuff. This thing is obviously labor intensive. Nothing. It's not trade intensive. What does it even mean? It's not goods intensive. What does it even mean? I have no idea what goods intensive mean. All right, so this is what I was talking about that time. If a learner says unique, you probably don't want to yes. Oh, and then hyper. If I remember correctly, it was saying high, but no, stagflation screams more than hyper. In some cases, yes, because when growth is low and what was the other one? Unemployment is high, and also what's the other one? Inflation is high. That portion that says high inflation could trigger the hyper part, the hyperinflation response. So some learners would probably say that. But as you can see, I'm sure the OC was done, and I'm sure they will never ever repeat such a thing, because maybe there was an argument at the marking center to the point of them deciding to put the C's as correct ones, because as you can see with our rule of 2A's, so this is an A, and then 2B's and 2C's, this will be our C's, and then 2D's. So these ones came, I'm sure, at the marking center, as some people saying no, unique is correct, others saying no, hyperinflation is correct. But to be honest, it's more correct to say differentiated, it's more correct to say stagflation. Because why are you talking about high unemployment then if you just want to say hyperinflation? The minute you have that combination, it becomes more stagflation than it is hyperinflation. But I'm sure they did it not to punish learners who are saying the truth, even though it's not the most correct thing. Right, then we go to May, June 2018. The first question was, the supply curve for an individual firm under perfect condition is, we did this one, it was that one we said, look at this supply curve. Yeah, how do we know? Because the supply curve is our marginal cost curve, right? And to be more correct is the point on the MC which is above the AVC, to be more correct. So our supply curve, you can see here, it's what? It's positive sloping. An industry with only two, okay, so the key word is two producers controlling the market is known as, the word two means, yes, and then poly is coming from Greek, they say it means seller, so two sellers. So duopoly would mean two sellers. Mono means one. Is it we say mono, duo, trio, quadro? All right, so this will be three. You see, tripoly. And again, we say poly means seller. So three sellers. Here it will be only, this one comes from Greek, whatever, and they say it means few in Greek. And then mono means one. So this in Greek means few. And this means three. This means two, because mono, duo. So the answer will then obviously be A. Right, the next question. Public goods are provided and funded by who else who do that? It's the government, it's the state. Who else? Markets, they don't do that. Come on. Markets will provide goods and services, not public ones. These ones are non-excludable, they're non-rivalry. Markets would not dare do that. They will produce what? Goods and services. Why? Because they're excludable, they are rivalry, and with that, it makes provision for them to make money. It's easy to sell something which is excludable because you exclude free riders. You say, no, without money, you can't get this. The government can introduce dash to increase the mobility of labor. Okay, we have to see options here. Taxes. How would taxes increase the mobility of labor? Because mobility of labor is that one of the, actually immobility of labor, it's one of the causes of market failure. So to deal with that immobility, government could deal with poverty. No. Introduce poverty. It doesn't make sense. Introduce inflation. How do you do that? Right. None of this makes sense. The only answer here that makes a lot of sense is training programs. The South African Reserve Bank is responsible for, that will be the monetary policy. And I gave you the answer here because, come on, you know it's monetary policy. What else can it be? Fiscal, whose responsibility is that? That will be the national treasury. Right, people traveling to South Africa from other countries are known as, they are coming in. So they are known as what? Influx, no. Internal, no. Outbound, No. Outbound, they're going out of South Africa to other countries. So the answer will be inbound. Right. Global warming is caused by the release of dash into the atmosphere. The answer can either be greenhouse gases or carbon dioxide. All right, we have carbon dioxide here. It can be oxygen, it can be hot air, it can be cold air. None of that makes sense. It is carbon dioxide. If they release oxygen into the atmosphere, wow, that would be good for us because we have a lot of air to breathe. So in this case, global warming is not caused by that good thing called oxygen. It is caused by that bad thing called carbon dioxide. The institution that publishes the CPI on a monthly basis is known as CPI. That's our consumer price index, and that is a basket that measures the cost of living. And on a monthly basis, Stats SA will publish this. So the answer is Stats SA. That will be D. It can be the Department of Finance. They are responsible for our fiscal policy. Not Department of Tourism. I can't even talk about it because it makes no sense. It can be the South African Revenue Services because this institution is responsible for collecting tax on behalf of the Department of Finance or on behalf of the National Treasury, which is one thing. So our answer is simple, yes, that's SA. Right, there we have our 2A's. Where's my cursor? There goes our 2A's, 2B's, 2C's, and 2D's. Right, the next one, November 2018. Unit cost is known as dash cost. Unit cost, come on, unit cost. It's average because it's cost per unit. So that's our average cost. The nature of product traded by a pure oligopoly. Okay, this one can be confusing, but the answer will be homogeneous. Differentiated, no. Heterogeneous, no. Anyway, if differentiated, if you were not sure then about this, look, differentiated and heterogeneous is one thing, and then unique, no. So the answer will be homogeneous. The term long run refers to a period where dash factors of production can change. That will be all of them. Yes, both variable and fixed. They both will be variable. Yes. A fresh produce market is a good example of a fresh produce. Come on, think about it. Apples, vegetables, fruits. That will be what is the nature of product for an apple? Would you say an apple is heterogeneous? Would you say it's unique, or you'd say it's homogeneous? All right, that will be a perfectly competitive market. Since apples are homogeneous, that will be perfectly competitive. The Minister of Dash is responsible for the fiscal policy. Come on, finance. I talked about it just now. Let's not waste time on such. The government can levy a or an dash tax on environmental polluters. Let's have a look. Green tax, D. Right, the next one. The tourism industry is labor intensive. We've done this before. Labor intensive. The granting of a license to businesses that allow them to pollute and to pollute up to a certain degree is referred to. And they can also sell that license to other businesses if they are not fully using it. So those are marketable permits. The next one, it brings us to the end of this one. So let's see, as usual, we have our 2A's, we have our 2B's, we have our 2C's, and we have our 2D's. The next one, that will be May, June 2019, last year. An individual firm under perfect competition has okay, I want you to see the curve, right? Look at this. they say the individual under has a dash demand curve. So this is our demand curve. Look at it. At 1, it's 2 rand. At 2, 2 rand. At 3, you see, so all these points. So if we were go to 13, 14, come on, we are going to go until. So this thing, think about something that you can stretch to infinite. What would you say about that thing that you can stretch to infinite? Would you say that thing is perfectly elastic? I think you should, because it is. Because there is a demand curve that, like, you try to stretch it, it doesn't go anywhere. All right, so we say this one is perfectly inelastic. This one here is something like this. Then relatively elastic is something like this, and then relatively inelastic is something like this. You see what we're saying? So this one here is close to that because it's almost inelastic, but it's not. And this one here is like this because it's almost inelastic, but it's not. So we say it's a relatively inelastic, and we say this one, since it's close to being perfectly elastic, it's relatively elastic. An example of monopolistic competition in South Africa is monopolistic. We have to look at the options. Banks, we have a few banks, so this cannot be. We have a few banks. Car manufacturers, I would say we don't even have. But if we talk about the ones that the BMs, the Audis and so on, those are few. Eskom, that would be one. Here, that would be many. Okay, what's the question? Monopolistic. In a monopolistic, we have many buyers and sellers. So our answer will be C. The next question, the effect of a minimum price. I should have, minimum price. So to get this one right, you have your demand, your supply. I should have put yeah. All right, so this being the free market price, and then government sees this market price and thinks that no, it's too low. They normally do this to something which is demerit, to discourage consumption. So now the question, let's see, if this was the output, the initial output, what happens to demand? Let's look at demand. You see, demand will decrease, but the question is, what happens to supply? Supply will increase. What is the question asking? The effect of a minimum price will increase the dash goods. Increase. So what's increasing? The increase is seen on supply. Let's have a look. Supply of goods. So the answer will be B. An imperfect market will maximize its revenue where marginal revenue is. Okay, this question will confuse you just like the previous one. The keyword is revenue. And this marginal revenue will confuse you. Why? Because you know that marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. And they'll be sneaky. They'll put that MC. Oh, it's not there. Okay. But if you don't see it, then if you don't know that the revenue is maximized at 0, then you wouldn't get it right. All right, I talked about this one before, so I won't explain it once again. So it's when it's equal to 0. Cost push inflation can be caused by, let's have a look. Lower wages, no. When wages are low, we can't have that cost because the cost of production is low. A decrease, come on, wrong. Exchange rate depreciation, yes. Because when the rand is weak, importing the things that we need that we don't have in South Africa will be expensive. So the cost of importing, and those things that we import are mostly our raw materials, if not finished goods. So whatever it is that we're making will then become more expensive. So prices will go up. The United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development agreed to focus on, let's see, Preventing soil erosion. Okay, that would make sense, but could it be the answer? A green economy, non-renewable energy. Okay, C sounds like it. No, a green economy. Oh yes, yes. This one can be confusing because even preventing soil erosion, because all of these things. So you need to know which conference this was. The United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. Because we have the Kyoto Protocol, we have the Rio Summit, we have the Joburg Earth Summit, and so it can be there because these things they all sound. Maybe reducing population growth is probably not one that could fit in here. Foreigners coming into the country from other countries are regarded as inbound. We've been doing this one for a long time now. A non-renewable energy resource is coal. Yes, sunlight is renewable. Currents in an ocean. Wind, wow. All right, there we have our 2 A's, 2 B's, 2 C's, and 2 D's. So now we move on to the last paper, which is November 2019. So we left with 8 questions only. Right, the first one is, a characteristic of a monopolistic competitor is that they, so here we have to look at the options. Do monopolistic, by the way, monopolistic, think about fast food outlets. Right, one of the characteristic of them, do you think they produce a homogeneous product? Do you think they obtain economic profits in the long run? No. These guys, they will obtain normal profit in the long run. Do you think they have full control over the price? No. They have competitors, so many of them. Do you think that they can easily enter and exit? Of course, you can start selling fish today and stop selling it tomorrow. It's up to you. You can enter the market, exit the market as you wish, because there are many buyers and sellers anyway. A social benefit is the sum of private benefit and oh sorry, I didn't show you the answer. Yes, that's the answer. All right, private benefit and no, and external benefit. Internal, no. Private, no. The answer is A. The supply curve of the oligopolist. Okay, look at this one. It's the same. Remember, our supply curve is the MC. So just the same as what we've been answering the whole time with perfect. So it will be a different year, then they just change from perfect because they asked twice perfect and now they changed it to oligopoly. And it remains the same marginal cost curve. So you can see that it is positive. In any market, the average revenue, okay, in any market, let's try to see something here. Okay, we already have this market here. And, okay, they say the what? The average revenue. Let's look at this average revenue. And our output is 100. So it is equal to what? I think you can see it's equal to our price. Okay, let's have this one. On this one is D is equal to AR and equal to MR and also equal to price. So price is common because our AR is this one. It's equal to price. It's also equal to D though. Okay. Yeah, so then it will depend on is D there. All right, then the other one is like this, downward sloping. D is equal to AR. And then we have our MR. So MR is out because in this case it's not. But at the same time, we still have our D. And when we put our MC, you will notice that this becomes it will be equal to P as well. So our answer is either P or D. Let's see what we have. All right, we don't have D, so it will be P. Right, during stagflation, a country experiences low economic growth and high unemployment. The other thing that they experience is high inflation. So, and dash at the same time. So look forward for inflation or unemployment. Whichever is there is the correct answer. Okay, we have high unemployment. So low inflation is wrong because it has to say high. Limited development, no. High, no. So that will be high unemployment. The agreement to ban 12 of the most dangerous manufacturing chemicals that was addressed at the Stockholm Protocol. Yes. The next one, which of the following is an example of an environmental World Heritage Site? So we have to see options here. These caves, no. Robben Island, no. This sounds more like it. The Frederick Dome, no. So it's obvious then. It's C. Natural resources are managed in such a way that it is available to present and okay, you see what I meant there when we started. In this case now we have the word natural resources, so that's when it becomes conservation. The first one was preservation, so you might want to go back, look at that, and look at this one again. This should be the last one. Yes, it is. All right, so we have again our 2A's, our 2B's, our 2C's, and our 2D's. Okay, so this brings us to the end of exam prep multiple choice paper 2. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for going this far. You can watch the paper 1 exam prep multiple choice on this channel. It will most probably be oh yeah, this will be the latest, depending on your settings, it'll be this will be the first video right now soon after I upload it. But yeah,